Hey guys, just before the podcast gets started, don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications so you never miss an upload. Hello and welcome back to the Yellow Squared podcast. My name is Ned and I'm joined by my brother with a new microphone, James. Welcome back, James. How are you? How is the microphone? How is the new setup?
Hello, mate. Hello, everybody. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, hopefully, you fabulous listeners will be able to hear me in pristine sound. So yeah, mate. No, I'm good. I'm good. Feels like spring is here. It's a nice day. Weather's good, and we should be talking about another really positive Watford week.
Yeah.
But we're talking about a draw and a defeat. Which is a shame. But no, yeah, I am well. You did all right?
Yeah, you know what? It's been a weird week in terms of Watford, hasn't it? With a draw and a loss, but yet weirdly positive still. About Cleverley, just about how the team's playing, the mentality of the team, and it's nice, and I'm excited to sit down and record today. Which has waned at times this season, perhaps in January where we were struggling quite a lot and everything was very negative. But no, it's nice to sit down and be excited to record again. But yeah, we've got plenty to discuss, haven't we, this week?
Yeah, plenty. I don't think we're going to touch too much on Ipswich in any great detail, but yeah, there's a lot to talk about. Cleverley's system, how he changed it for Southampton yesterday, how the team's played, some of the contentious decisions in the game, and just kind of where we are really as we head towards the end of the season. I was looking back at the fixture list that we had really when Clevs took over, and it really was a very tough fixture list, and I think there was fears that we could have,
Been sucked
barring
into a
barring beating Birmingham, yeah, we could have had a real tough time against some of those teams, but we haven't, and I think it's sort of given everybody a bit of a boost, which is really nice to see. And I think people, yes, they were disappointed at full time yesterday with just the manner of the defeat. It felt a little bit unjust, but there was still a lot of positivity out there, which is nice. Which is nice, and that's what I think the Watford fan base wants is something to get behind and cling to, to make this transition period for the club, a little bit easier.
yeah. Positivity on Watford Twitter is something of a rarity.
Especially after a defeat.
I know, especially after a defeat. Yeah, usually there's a complete meltdown, but you know what? Yesterday it didn't look too bad from what I saw. The opening 20 minutes was tough, but other than that, I think Watford fans have commended themselves well. You know, it's two away days in the space of a week, but we've travelled really well to both of them, and I think from what I'm gathering, a lot of noise is coming about, like the atmosphere in the away end has gone up massively since Cleverley took over. A lot of people have been saying like, "Oh, this week's been the best atmosphere of the season," and then the next week they're saying, "Oh, it's the best atmosphere of the season," and that's really positive from my viewpoint because you go to the football to enjoy it. There's no point in going if you're just gonna be miserable and have a terrible day. So the fact that people are enjoying the football, backing the boys, getting behind Cleverley, it's a very positive thing to be able to open my timeline on Twitter and people are praising Cleverley and praising the team despite losing and despite winning one of our last five and drawing like 4 in a row or 3 in a row or something. It's it's really positive. But James, before we get into Southampton in greater detail, and obviously we can touch on Ipswich as well, guess the player has to return.
Yes.
And I am playing Quizmaster this week. 17-all is the score. The dark arts are at work, and I'm not gonna hide that away. this is going to be tough for you this week, James. Unless, I mean, the first clue is actually probably the easiest out of the three. So
All right.
if you get it off this, I'll be impressed. But I wouldn't expect you to get it maybe until the third clue. Otherwise, okay.
All right.
Are you ready to try and pull 3 points clear?
Yeah, absolutely. Bring it. Let's go.
Let's do this then. Okay, clue number 1. I started my career in Scotland in the year 2000, making 215 appearances, scoring 29 goals for multiple clubs, before moving to the Hornets on a pre-contract agreement.
In 2000?
In 2000, yeah.
So, Scottish, moved to Watford in 2000 on a pre-contract deal.
No, they started their career in 2000.
All right.
Making 215 appearances in Scotland, scoring 29 goals in Scotland, and then they moved to Watford in a pre-contract agreement after that.
Oh, but you're not giving me a date of when they moved to Watford.
No, I'm not. You gotta think of a Scottish player.
Yeah, all right. Stephen Glass.
No, it's not. Unfortunate for you, James.
But yeah, that's unfair, mate. No.
That knocks it down to 2 points in the next clue coming up shortly. Okay then. Southampton, James. Southampton.
Yeah.
A 3-2 defeat. On the surface, you know, we've come back from 2-0 down and then, you know, sort of thrown it away right at the death. What are your, you know, what were your initial thoughts going into it? Seeing the lineup, seeing how we changed from that 3-5-2 to a flat back 4, and you know, what were your opinions of the game? I know you missed the first sort of 15-20 minutes, but what did you think of yesterday's performance?
Yeah, I was really interested, and I was a little bit unsure as to why Cleverley had changed the shape, considering how well we've played in all of the games so far with the back three, and going to Ipswich midweek with a back three and keeping a clean sheet and looking relatively good for that game. My eyebrows were raised, so I was a bit unsure as to how that would play out. But I think the immediate question mark was, again, Ryan Andrews dropped to the bench and Porteous moving to this sort of right back position. That was a question mark for me. But I kind of thought that for Cleverley to do that, he must have a reasoning behind it. He must be wanting to counter something with Southampton. We knew what we were going to be coming up against. Lots of playing out at the back, nice football, nice build-up play from that Southampton side. So I think he was wanting to have, you know, the strength and solidity that three centre-backs can provide. And maybe he was a little bit concerned about Ryan Andrews' legs. You know, he made his comments in the pre-match that we're going to have to use this squad depth and shuffle some people around because we've had a day's less rest than Southampton. So, yeah, it was an interesting shape, interesting decision from Cleverley. And like you say, I missed the first 20 minutes. I actually turned on Five Live just after the second goal. So you can argue that change of shape didn't quite work. But yeah, so I didn't see the 2 goals, mate. You did, though.
Yeah.
What did you think of that opening 25 minutes?
Well, to be honest, we looked miles off it. it was obvious that the change in formation had perhaps maybe thrown some players off. We just didn't look like we knew what we were doing at all. The midfield was absolutely non-existent, and that kind of goes without saying when you change from a midfield 3 to more of a 2, which which would confuse players. I imagine there was just so much space. No one was tracking any runners, and you see from the first goal, it's just a free header essentially. And they continued to just rip us apart, moving the ball across the back line with very little pressure, making nice runs, finding good passes in attacking areas. And, it was only a matter of time before they scored a second goal. And to be honest, it was handed to them on a plate by Deli Bashir, who I personally don't think had a very good game at all. And, there was a reason why he was hooked for Kone when he was. And, yeah, it was poor. And then we started to have a little bit of pressure because, to be honest, we hadn't touched the ball for about the first 5-10 minutes, other than maybe like one counter attack. And yeah, we built on some pressure, had a little bit of momentum, and then up steps Porteous from right back to absolutely welly one in, and then all of a sudden we've got a bit of a foothold in the game, and we can push on from there. And Southampton, I've been disappointed with them both times I've seen them play this season. I didn't really watch the FA Cup because, of course, it's not available to be streamed anywhere in the world, and for various commitments I can't make it to home and away for between Watford and Southampton in the FA Cup. And yeah, I've been disappointed with them, to be honest. They're very stuck in their ways. They don't like to change anything, to be honest. They love to play out from the back, even when it was really, really dangerous to do so. They just love to invite pressure onto us from us, and it was no surprise that eventually their lapse in judgment in passing out from the back actually led to both goals, because it just invited sustained pressure, because they just would not get rid of it long. They just kept trying to play out from the back.
And it's funny you say that, because like I say, when I turned on late after the second goal, it sounds like that was the moment we just started to step up, because my impression of Watford from the time I switched on yesterday was that they were keen to press high, and they started to cause Southampton problems. So I wonder if that was a tactical decision to start to press them. I guess we had to, because we had to try and find a way back into the game, and like you say, we started to get some good success, and I felt like our Achilles heel this season was just the indecision in the final third. Kept coming back up, really. We had some good chances. I know Asprey sort of jinked in and around the box and hit a great shot, which was going in and was saved. So obviously it went out for a goal kick. So I think there must have been a switch around the 25-minute mark, and we started to cause Southampton some problems. And like I say, Porteous. It was a deflected goal, but he was, I think he was enjoying his full-back role, wasn't he? He was bombing forward yesterday afternoon. It was great. It was good to see. Fun to see.
Yeah, it was. We did step up, actually. I think you could see the frustration in the players. There was one moment where we were 2-0 down, and we had to defend an attacking ball into the box. It was kind of flicked away just about by Pollock, and you could see his body language, and he was very animated with the rest of the players. And then we sort of stepped up a little bit, and that's all we had to do from the start of the game, just press them, because they weren't going to change their style of play. We know Russell Martin is a manager that is very stuck in his ways. He does not like to divert from his tactic. of keeping the ball around the back and playing nice football out from there, because it's high risk but high reward. To be fair, when you break out of the press, there's an awful lot of space to get into, and we know Southampton have the quality to punish teams because they're high up in the Championship. But you know what? We did step up. We did start putting pressure on. We suddenly gained some belief in ourselves, which was nice to see. And yeah, we got a well-deserved goal. We weren't particularly blessed with officiating yesterday, but we'll get onto that in a little bit. And yeah, I pointed out I was watching the game with our dad, as we often do on a Saturday. And I pointed out to him as we were watching that, if I was Cleverley, I would take off David Bashir and bring on Kone, because Bashir just had a pretty poor game, couldn't get into it. He wasn't being allowed to make those marauding runs that he does on the ball and carry the ball so well. So yeah, that was the right decision to make. I mean, we can talk about some of the other substitutes as well. Like you said, we knew we'd have to dip into I say squad depth. It's not very deep. We knew we'd have to dip into the bench. Bringing on Rajovic, Martins, James Morris. Any thoughts on those substitutions and if anyone made an impact when they came on? Did anyone stick out to you?
So with the subs, I think on the face of it, you've got to say Kone did make a difference and made an impact. He scored the goal, won the ball high up the pitch, and drove into the box. Nice, confident finish, and I felt like that was deserved for us at the time for all of the work and the effort that we'd put in. But I think sort of behind that, Andrews and Morris, when they came on, I thought they were okay. Morris was very much his sort of usual self, reliable on the ball, decent touch, got forward a few times, put a few good balls into the box. So it was a very standard Morris performance. Not good, not bad. I thought Andrews struggled a little bit again when he came on. I thought he was wayward with his passing a little bit.
Yeah.
And gave the ball away in some dangerous areas, which is becoming a bit of a theme for him at the moment. So hopefully he can work through that over the summer. But and he didn't really manage to go forward too much either. He was sort of cutting back a little bit and laying the ball off. Yeah. So I don't know whether his confidence is a little bit low at the moment.
I think you could look at that and say, well, with the change in formation, he's not going to be able to get forward as much, particularly given it was away at Southampton. We know they're good on the ball, and he was getting beaten, to be honest, down the left hand side by Fraser, pretty comfortably, and Aribo and those kind of players who are quality on the ball. So I can understand it probably would have been tactical, but at the same time I could agree that his confidence might be slightly dented given the recent run of form, and we've all been there when you're trying to make 10-yard passes and it's not coming off, and it's frustrating, and you're losing confidence, but it's a bit of a risk to have someone like that so young in the side. It's a lot of spotlight, the Championship, and I just hope he can. That's something he can work on, because big clubs or England see something in him for him to be called up for pretty much every development squad, every international break. So there's obviously a quality player in there. He's just got to really work on that ball retention. I think that's his main thing, and just his final product, because physically, he's quality, and defensively he's solid. Rajovic and Martins, James. What do you think they added when they came on?
Not much. difference. I thought Martins was fine. Obviously replacing Dennis. I think
Yeah,
Dennis, they're struggling to get him through games. He's clearly got this groin issue. But
yeah.
I thought actually Dennis played pretty well yesterday.
Mm.
Um, Again, I thought his physicality was good. I thought he was working for the team. I did have a little watch. There was a stoppage in play, and Cleverley called Dennis over, and they were just chatting, and you could see Dennis's body language was great. He was listening to everything Cleves was saying, and he was nodding, and he was going along with it. You know, it looked like he was engaged. A lot of people
Yeah.
were concerned about how interested he would be, but I think he's working hard. He's working for the team, and I think he's at least enjoying playing football
Mm.
and playing for Watford at the moment. Um, but replaced by Martins, and you got exactly what you would expect to get from Martins, running with the ball, trying to cut inside, get around players. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Mm.
He couldn't really get the ball out from under his feet in and around the box. Um, it's a shame, really. He's really fallen away, hasn't he, Martins?
Yeah,
Since
yeah,
the start of the season. I thought we'd unlocked the Martins we thought we were getting
yeah.
last season.
It's
But he's sort of dropped off now, hasn't
it's linked. It really has linked to that.
he?
The Cardiff match day away at Cardiff when he was absent from the squad because a close family member had died,
Oh
and
yeah, that's right.
he hasn't not been the same since. And maybe that's playing on his mind or affecting him, and it has affected players before, massively.
Mm.
So probably the biggest case of that is Adriano, very close to his dad who passed away. So it could be a similar
Yeah.
situation where his mind is just not on football at the moment. And you think about, in the grand scheme of things, this is a season-long loan at Watford. He's going back to Udinese. Um, he moved from Fluminense, so it's a big distance around the world. He's probably been travelling a lot. Might not be able to
Yeah.
see his family all too much, and that could play a massive impact on him. So I try not to be too harsh on him, given that
Yeah.
I think I can
Oh,
appreciate the wider context,
yeah.
which could be glossed over
I,
by a lot of people. Um,
yeah.
but
I
yeah,
don't think I don't think he was mad.
no,
I
no,
just
no,
I
no, it's fine,
it was fine.
honestly. Yeah, I just think he's not been the same player.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem to have as much confidence going forward on the ball and cutting in so dynamically. Really, no defender could stop him in that run he had
Yeah.
where
At
he
one
scored
point. Yeah.
at West Brom and Coventry, and yeah,
Mm.
I think there's definitely a player in there. He's just really really fallen
Yeah.
away, which is a real shame, to be honest. Okay
Yeah. And,
then.
yeah. Great. And Bio and Rajovic
Yeah,
just really quick.
yeah,
I just feel I desperate for them to do well.
yes,
I
yeah,
just feel like I like both of them individually, um, for their effort, and I like Bio's athleticism. I think he just needs to play with somebody.
mm,
I thought he was holding the ball up nicely, some good little layoffs, and his work rate in the press was good. And you know, I think Rajovic has been a different player since Clevs came in and
mm,
took over.
yeah,
Uh, he was putting himself about yesterday, um, but it did again. It didn't come off for him. Where he went for that long throw,
yeah,
which was
yeah.
it again. Right thing to do, in my opinion.
Why not?
Because why not? We wanted to go for it. Loved that. At the end of the season, we've not got anything to lose, so he may as well go for it.
Mm.
And then he just decided to launch it straight into Bazunu's hands, which is just the one thing you
Yeah,
absolutely shouldn't do in that scenario. And then he gave away the free kick, which led to the goal. I thought that was a harsh decision personally,
yeah,
but
yeah,
the free kick was a bit questionable. But yeah, tough on him to come on and sort of have that cameo, which he was involved in the downfall of the game, sadly. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's one I am desperate for him to do well. I like his story. I think he's improved under Cleverley. They often talk about how hard he works on the training ground, and those are all really important and
Mm.
admirable attributes for a professional to have.
Yeah.
I just hope I wish it would come off better for him. Um, and a name was mentioned to me the other day. Ross Jenkins,
Oh yeah.
bit of a Watford legend. I was told that he had a similar sort of really rocky start to his Watford career. Didn't feel like it would come off. People were questioning if he would make it at all at Watford, and obviously then he goes on to be the player he is, and I'm hoping that kind of story happens again, because I'd be so pleased for Rajovic, and obviously we get a great striker out of it. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that comes through. Okay, James, are you ready for clue two? Guess the player.
Yeah. Are you going to give me a little bit more this time? Are you going to give me a
Oh,
star sign?
I can I can try and give you something you might know. This will really test your championship
Yeah.
knowledge from this time period. Okay, clue
Okay.
number two, James.
Yeah.
Okay. After Watford, I moved, perhaps controversially, following my former manager to South Wales after being convinced not to sign an extended deal with Watford, so the club in question wouldn't have to pay a transfer fee.
Oh. So what was that? Follow my former.
So this player followed his previous manager at Watford to
Yeah.
South Wales after being convinced not to sign an extended deal with the Hornets, so that the club he would move to wouldn't have to pay a transfer fee. Hence, controversial.
So that to me feels like Brendan Rodgers at Swansea. Um, Possibly. Uh,
Who knows?
but who would have been Scottish that made that? That I mean, the only one I can think of is Don Cowie. Go for Don Cowie.
It is Don Cowie. Yes, 2
Yes,
points. Yeah,
get
well
in
done.
there.
It wasn't Brendan Rodgers. It was Malky Mackay and Cardiff. So
Oh,
I thought I was scot free then. I thought I was away when you started saying Brendan Rodgers and
oh,
Swansea. I was absolutely ecstatic. We don't have the cameras today, but if you would have seen me celebrating from the other end if that was turned on. But yeah, pulling it out
well,
the bag. We
yeah,
love 2
much like
points.
Britos.
Mm.
Oh, yeah, I like Don Cowie. I thought he was probably one of our standouts in the side at that time period, wasn't he?
I mean,
Probably one of
I
our
was
key players.
5, so I don't really remember much of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, clue 3 would have been that I made 88 appearances for Watford, scoring 9 times, including in a 3-1 win over QPR, the game where Lloyd Doyley scored his first ever goal.
Oh,
Do you think you'd got that? Do you think you got Don Carey from that?
I might have done. I might have done. I think yeah, clue two was key for me there.
Well, there you go. 2 points, 19-17. It really feels like this race is a bit like the Championship this season. Just no one wants to win. We're
Nobody
just
wants to.
content to draw and eke it
Yeah,
out right to the end. It's almost like it's scripted.
almost. Do you want a good segue then for the last little bit? If you wanted to talk about no team wants to win and there's lots of draws.
I mean, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, because it felt like that's what Watford thought they'd got yesterday afternoon until the corner was given.
Mm. And a certain Flynn Dowes handed them the win.
Yeah, I think we got to address it, haven't we? We've got to talk
Yeah,
about
I
it
think it's a bit of an elephant in the room, isn't it? To be
because
honest, I thought
it's
Josh Smith, the referee yesterday, had a poor game, and
mm,
there was many decisions, lots of fouls that were given for really, really limited contact. In certain cases, no contact. Southampton players throwing themselves to the floor,
yeah,
earning themselves free kicks, yellow cards left and right for Watford players. It seemed like 50-50s were just being let go
yeah.
when they were going the way of Southampton. Yellow card and a foul. And then obviously they miss Downs literally controlling it with his hand and putting it into the net.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
tough, isn't it?
it's karma, isn't it? Really, for the Decore
Oh, yeah,
handball a few years ago, which has been brought up many times. I'm just
yeah.
looking at some quotes from Backman. He's obviously talking about the fans, saying they're fantastic again, and he felt sorry for him and when that goal went in, and we got wrongfully done today, and things like that
Mm.
happen in football, and it's the standard of officiating has been something that's under spotlight constantly from fans, up and
Yeah.
down the 92. But in the past week, it has been particularly awful. I don't know if you'd seen
Oh, the
the
penalty
penalty
for
for
Rotherham.
West Brom against Rotherham. Yeah, terrible
Oh,
decision. Um,
awful,
and
awful.
I'm not going to put ours on the same level as that because that might actually be criminal. But yeah, it was pretty bad to miss that proper handball. The Watford players did appeal for it. But yeah,
Yeah,
poor. It was
everybody saw it.
a poor performance in summary, I would say.
I think,
But yeah.
yeah, I'm not really one for VAR. I don't like it. I don't like how it's been introduced in the Premier League.
Mm,
I don't think it's managed particularly well. I think if we had VAR yesterday, I I feel like Southampton would have been down to 10 men, and the equaliser wouldn't have been awarded because it was handball, and the challenge from Ryan Fraser on Dan Backman was I've looked back at it and it's a lot worse than you think
mm,
on first viewing, because Dan's leg is almost planted, and if he gets his foot caught in the turf, I think he'd have been in a real world of pain.
mm.
Um, but so I'm not one for VAR, and I acknowledge that mistakes happen, and referees are human. It's happening at a million miles an hour.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't see anything, and if you can't see it, you can't give it. But that's why you have a team of officials who are around you. Um, assistant referees, as they have to be called now, so help him out. But what as a referee you absolutely cannot do is allow a goal to go in the 99th minute when you've added on 97 minutes.
Yeah. And
And
it's one of those, isn't it? With the attack in play, it can
yeah,
end on the corner. It doesn't have to. You don't have to
yeah,
play the corner, as we've seen many times where the play's been ended
yeah, yeah,
for a corner. And yes, it's frustrating, but you played 2 minutes overtime, and God, we sound like we're in absolute tears here, crying about the result. Honestly, it does. We're safe. If we were battling
oh yeah,
relegation, I'd
yeah.
be tearing my hair out. But
No, but
we're
that's what
safe.
Cleverley said, wasn't it?
It really doesn't matter that much, but it's frustrating. I think most Watford fans would agree. Most Championship fans would agree that the standard of officiating is poor, and we were let down yesterday. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah,
I think Southampton fans would agree with that.
I think so, and that's what Cleverley said,
Yeah,
and that comes back to my point, your point about karma. Yeah,
yeah,
we got the handball at home, they got the handball this time. It's
yeah,
fine,
yeah,
and I think people can live with the idea that we have a bad decision, but next week we may get the lucky decision.
yeah.
And that's what Cleverley said. What Cleverley also said is you cannot, like, there is hundreds of millions of pounds on the line for the clubs battling promotion, and Southampton have been given a goal because they got the time wrong. Or, you know, that can't be allowed. Like, the time was, it was 2 minutes past the allotted time, and there weren't 2 minutes of stoppages within that 7 minutes added time.
Yeah.
You know, that can't happen because now Southampton can go and get automatic promotion, and you know that could cost Leeds or Ipswich or Leicester, millions of pounds. So that's the problem.
Yeah, I think that's
anyway,
what people look at. Yeah, I mean, we haven't actually had an alarm in a long time, have we? We had the Keith Stroud alarm.
Josh Smith on the list.
I think we might have to add Josh Smith to the referee alarms.
Yeah,
that's 2 people now. I'm sure there'll be many more next season to add to the list. You know what? There hasn't been too many recently because no one has stuck out in mind as having a particularly bad performance. But yeah, the crown unfortunately goes to Josh Smith this week, joining Keith Stroud on an illustrious blacklist from the Yellow Squared podcast headquarters, which is I mean, it's their loss.
Prestigious award, I might say.
It is, yeah. Up there with Guess the Player crown, some would say.
One question for you, mate, if I may.
Yeah, of course.
It sort of follows on from last week's discussion about how we think Cleverley's doing, and it was just looking at something that Wesley Hoot said after the game. So his quote, and I lifted this from the dudes over at Voices of. Yeah, he said, "I think Pez is doing amazing. He's doing a very, very great job, and we all want him to succeed. So that's a big part as well. Let's now finish the season with the last 3 games, and we'll see what happens." Do you think that's Wesley saying that the boys want Clevs to stay on?
I think the players would be silly not to want to have Cleverley stay on. I think if they can't see the change in performance over the past 5 games compared to, say, Ishmael's last 5 games, and the vibe around the club, I think they'd be silly to want to play under a different manager, because I don't think it's going to get much better for us if we decide to sack Cleverley and bring in someone completely different. But it's positive. You know, we're basically safe. I don't think any team around the bottom is going to get 7 or 8 points and us be in a serious battle.
No.
So we're all but safe. It would be very easy for these players to be pretty much on the beach at the moment. You know, we've had a relatively disappointing season of decent highs in the middle and then obviously painful lows. And it would be easy for those players to say, you know what, we're fine. My mind is elsewhere, particularly lone players like Dennis. But I'm pleased that they're happy working for Cleverley. And yeah, if that means that they're happy for him to stay on next season and take the club forward, then I'm more than happy. I think the fans would respond really well to that. I think he's a player we can all get behind, and then all of a sudden the Vic is filling up again. Everyone's getting behind your song, and there's a much more positive outlook around Watford, because it's been pretty cloudy for the past 3 years.
Yeah, agreed.
And well, I'm going to flip that question to you, James. Do you think that the players want Cleverley, and do you want Cleverley next season? Having seen 5 performances now.
I mean, yes, I do.
Yeah,
I want Cleverley next season. I think he's performed really well. I think, yes, we haven't got as many wins in the games that Cleverley's been in charge, but at least I've enjoyed watching us. I've liked what we've been doing, and I think that the players are bought into him as a person.
Definitely.
Which is, I think, in the current club situation with the ownership where it is, and how I don't think they're going to change too much. and what unless money talks at the end of the day. If we can't afford to keep sacking managers, we won't. But I don't think they're going to change their plan. So I don't really know what benefit getting somebody else in from another division or a bigger name. I don't really know what they're going to do necessarily when it's not like we're just pulling a former coach from the 23s to manage the first team. This is Tom Cleverley. He's won Champions Leagues. He's won Premier Leagues. He's played for the club. He's played with these players, up until last season. So he knows a lot of them. And I think he has an element of respect from this playing side, playing stuff. So, yeah, go for it. I'd give him a go. He's proven he can compete with other managers at championship level. He got the tactics at the start of the game wrong, but he reacted well against Ryan Manning, and I think we shaded it. To be honest, at the end, I thought we actually pressed them, and we made them panic by the end of it. So I think he's showing that he's fit tactically at this level. So I'm all for it. I would go for it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, you look at the teams he's played at. Scrappy win against Birmingham, but first ever game in football for Cleverley in management. That was always bound to happen, and then you're playing 3 of the top 4 plus playoff pushing in form West Brom, and to come away from that having gone toe to toe with all 4 teams, only losing once, and being very unfortunate not to win in at least 2 out of 3 of those games, particularly Leeds and West Brom. Just late goals conceded, really. But I think that's down to maybe a bit of inexperience on the managerial side, not being able to see out games, and not being able to set up the team in the final 10 minutes to just sort of shut up shop, really, when you're protecting a lead that you're not really going to extend at that point. But other than that, no, I'm so happy for Cleverley. I think he's more than comfortable at this level tactically, and I'm pleased for him, and I hope that the Pozzos can see the performances and not just that we've only won 1 in 5, which is a bit more of a negative stat than the performances would reflect.
Yeah.
Is that everything this week then, James, or anything else anything else to discuss?
I'll just close off on the point you were just making there about hopefully the Pozzos can see it. And I think the one thing we can say is that I do believe when they say they look at how a head coach is doing both on a Saturday afternoon and throughout the entire week, I do believe that that's still how they operate.
Yeah.
So I think they won't necessarily be looking at the results too much now because it doesn't really matter. They'll be looking at how Tom is progressing as a coach and if there's a future. And I think he's really well. So that's the one thing I do think that Gino Pozzo will do is I think he'll make a decision based on a lot of other factors, not just the results on a piece of paper.
Yeah, and I think that has happened this season because, we were going through a particularly rocky patch, but because, Ishmael was doing so much good elsewhere in the club, at the time, he was allowed a lot more time than maybe other Watford managers have been given, which maybe shows that there is an element of change going on in the club. But ultimately, I think it was the right decision to sack him because we needed to guarantee survival, because it would be financially catastrophic for us to get relegated from the Championship. So on that cheery note, we'll end off the podcast for this week. More positive vibes coming, I think. A couple games left to go in the season. We've just got to go out there and impress, really. I've been pleased with what I've seen for the most part. I just hope that can keep going and we build on that momentum into next season.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be nice if we are all but guaranteed survival to see a few more academy players feature on the bench or maybe have a few cameos here and there in the remaining games. I think that's a decent way to end off the pod though, James.
Too right. And I'm actually looking forward to Hull next week at the Vic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Should be a good game.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay then, guys. Thank you so much for listening to the Yellow Square podcast this week. We'll be back following Hull next Sunday or next Wednesday. If you're watching on YouTube, get it in the diary because we'll be back very soon with another podcast. Thanks so much, guys, and we'll see you soon. Take care.